The Conquistador Podcast was created for dreamers, entrepreneurs, and leaders who want to conquer their future. Here are Mauricio Garcia and Hubert Humphrey.
If you want to have success as an entrepreneur, you're in the right place. My name is Mauricio Garcia, and I want to welcome you to another episode of the Conquistador Podcast. You know, I learned something from my mentor one day. He says, knowledge doesn't always create activity, but activity always creates knowledge, and repetition is the mother of all skill. And so what we're going to cover today is, how to overcome objections. At least Hubert's proven field-tested secrets to overcome an objection. And it's really a summary of things he's learned as an entrepreneur, as a great salesperson as well, as a great leader. So let me bring him in, see if everything is fine today. Mr. Hubert Humphrey.
How you doing? I'm glad to be here today. I think today's session is sort of like a trilogy. The Monday show and then the Tuesday show. This is basically kind of the tip of the spear. It's kind of condensing it down into a Reader's Digest version of what we talked about on those two shows.
Agreed.
So people can come away with a good simplified little message to carry around with them to help them overcome objections and help them win the people game. That's the key.
And I tell you what, I've learned that sometimes one little phrase, sometimes just one little phrase, like it changes your way of thinking. That one little card, like you said, this one little nugget changes the whole game for you. So, it's coming from real live experience out there. Anyways,
well, let me give you something that was one of those aha moments in my life many years ago. 40, 50, probably this was probably 8 or 10 years before I actually got into financial services. I'd just trying and wanting to get away from the railroad. I looked at a lot of different little things, and I met some good people who had been into people business and were recruiting and building some of these great companies like that became the Amway and things of that nature. Mm-hmm. But I learned something from them, and then I practiced it and realized how well it worked, and it helped straighten me out. And what we taught on sessions 1 and 2, Monday and Tuesday, I learned later because of this particular little point. It just it turned me around, and it showed how simple it was. It showed how you said words, how the same words can move somebody one way or the other just because it's just the nature of who you're talking to. And let's give you an example. The first thing you got to understand when you're doing contacting or trying to approach somebody, what is your objective? What is the reason you're trying to contact this person? Well, he's on my prospect list, and if I can persuade him to join me and he becomes successful, I'll have a nice producer that'll produce a lot of business. It'll make me make some money, which makes my dreams come true. So that's Absolutely. My objective. Or if I was a guy looking to make some sales, if I can take this client and let me sit down and talk to him about what I'm doing, I can bring some great value to him or her, and they'll benefit, and I'll benefit some too. So you got to start with the end in mind. And so if what you've got is that valuable to all of you and that important to you and them, you can't afford to screw it up too many times. First of all, you got to eventually learn how to get it right, because a lot of people get driven out of the business because they never learn. Well, one, they run out of prospects, and number two, the few prospects they have, they keep wasting their prospects, and so they eventually just become dry. It all dries up and they leave. But I learned this simple little process here. I found out that out of the many little objections that people could give you, one of them is certainly they'll ask you, well, what is it? Mm-hmm. And or they're going to say, is it sales, or is it insurance, or is it or something, whatever it is. And so what I learned, I'll give you an example. If let's say, Mauricio, I was contacting you and you were just a non-experienced person, and you're sitting out there and you've got me calling you, and let's say I even know you. I mean, it's a little bit of a relationship and everything, and I'm telling you I'm all excited and everything. Well, that's good. The one thing is I'm excited. That's good. And number two, I rouse your curiosity. My excitement my excitement and the fact that you know me and all of a sudden I sound different, that alone
I'll have a reaction to that.
That alone is going to arouse your curiosity button.
Right.
And if I talk about, man, I'm excited about this. This looks like something I'm really choosing a new career here. Well, all of a sudden that hits your greed button. So you're kind of curious. So I've got the curiosity and the greed button ignited, which is good. But that's not the only thing that'll work, because if I don't do something else right, all of that was to no avail. So so the key was this. I'd say I've got you excited now, and all of a sudden, because there's curiosity, you're going to ask a question.
Right, my human nature, right? What is it?
When you arouse curiosity, what they're wanting to know is just enough. They don't know quite enough how to say no yet, but they're looking to. Your objective is to get them to say yes. Their objective is to say no. That's just human nature. So you got two competing objectives on the phone. Mine's to get you to say yes. Yours is to quickly say no and go on about your business, because now you really, deep down inside, you'd really like to make more money. You'd really like to have all this stuff, but the natural part of you just sort of pushes it off. So anyway, here's what I found, this little aha moment for me. And I learned, I watched this happen with other people, so I know it works, and I started using it. It changed my whole approach to people. And because it was so simple. I didn't have to learn a whole bunch of objections and rebuttals, my quiver didn't have to have too many arrows in the beginning. Now later on, I got to where I could overcome almost any objection. But in the beginning, people can't do that. So here's what I learned to do. So one is I got to have enough. I got to at least have enough interest for you, so you don't hang the phone up. And so I've kind of done that. You're listening. You just haven't heard enough to jump to that conclusion yet. You haven't heard enough to make that unintelligent decision yet. So you're going to say, what is it? And well, I'm not going to tell you what it is. I say, listen, I'm not here to calling you to tell you what it is. I'm just telling you I know what it is. You need to take a look at it. So I'm going to kind of put you off and say we need to get together and tell you more. Or I'm so new. I'll have my partner here. He'll tell you about it. Anyway, so I've kind of got you going. But here, so you're going to probably jump up and you're going to say, well, for example,
is it sales?
Is this sales? And then here's the simple, universal, multi-purpose answer. I'd say, why? Would you like for it to be sales? And he's going to say, yes or no.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
So if,
either or.
Most time he's going to say, no, I can't say. I said, well, great, you're going to love this. Mm-hmm. Well, if he says, yeah, it's sales, I got a little background, I said, well, great, you're going to love this. I give him the same answer, because either way, for example, he'll say, is this Amway? I said, why, you want it to be Amway? No, well, great, you'll love this then. Or is this like Amway? Why, would you like? Yeah, I like that model. Yeah, well, this is like Amway. I'm going to use the same answer to him. Just all I got is just one arrow. I make it go either way he wants to. It simplifies things. For example, if he says, "Is it insurance?" I say, "Why? Do you want to sell insurance?" He said, "No." I said, "Well, great. You'll love this, because you don't have to be a great insurance salesman in our business. I'm pretty sure you know that. You can come in. There's a whole other future of recruiting and building, etc."
Oh, absolutely. So, absolutely.
So that's the one thing. I just kept it simple, where whatever they ask, I ask them. If they ask me if it was something, I say, why do you like that?
Yeah.
Why do you want it to be? If whatever they said, my answer was the same either way, because it can be whatever you want it to be.
Yeah, and you're doing them, and that's the way to help them out, because right there and then, if you then begin to answer the questions, you're going to run to that scenario of disaster. It's not the right environment. You got to bring them to the right environment, or have the opportunity for them to watch the whole thing, get all the facts. But I find it so that just powerful, and I want people to understand that sales, there is a science behind it, and that is, you have to be strategic about it. And what you're hearing right now is as powerful as it can get, because people will ask you these questions when you're prospecting to them, when you're contacting them, and it's how do you use their own question against them in a way, right? To help them.
Let me, and I've shared this way back on a few podcasts a long time ago, but let me tell you how simple this is. I'm just trying to simplify it for a brand new person getting started.
Right.
You don't have to know all these rebuttals. You don't have to understand every objection. Just understand a simple little tactic of deflecting pressure on you, the new person, so it doesn't blow you out of the business, and you end up helping these people. And that way you'll have a win-win situation. But here's an example. If you're on with somebody that's a pretty aggressive person and they keep asking you, well, what is it? Just back to the old days, long before there were cell phones. I remember, I think I told this story. I had a niece Burke, Hubert and niece Burke. I recruited down there. They lived up in Milledgeville, Georgia, Thompson, Georgia, up above Milledgeville. And I was I'd gotten them into the Amway business with it, and so I was up there at their home. We were going to have a big meeting that night over there at the bank. They had sort of a meeting room that we could use, and so we were getting people there to have a big kickoff there in Thompson, Georgia, a small town. And so I got a niece who knows lots of people. She's on the phone, and I told her this very simple little message here. Whatever they say, do it. But she kind of froze, and she was talking to him. She was talking on the phone. She called him up. She told him everything I just said. I'm sitting over by her now, and she's saying everything that I told her. And then all of a sudden she freezes, and the guy had asked her. He kept asking her about the second or third question, and she didn't know how to deflect it anymore. And so she was afraid. One thing she remembered: do not answer a question with an answer. If you're going to respond to a question, it must be you asking a return question. Mm-hmm. Don't answer a question with a question. A new person should never try to give the answer. Right. And so she'd run out of the two or three things she knew what to say, and so she just froze. And finally, she slams the phone down. I said, "What was that about?"
That's not part of the program.
He just kept asking me this same question, right. And I just couldn't think of what else to say. I said, "You told me that I should not give an answer," and so I said, "You did it perfect." Now I said, "Here's what you now say." So we got our mind together, and I said, "Call him back. Just tell him that something cut you off." He called back up, "Hey man, I don't know what happened to the line. Something cut us off. Now you're fresh, and so you're better off just clicking the phone than answering. You can come back in a few minutes and apologize for getting cut off. Just don't spook the person. A prospect is too valuable. Their life is too valuable. Their dreams are too valuable. If you're marketing products that have that much value, and what we do, I remember back in the A.O. Williams days, we were going to give them 3 or 4 times. We were going to give them $200,000 worth of coverage for what they were spending for $40,000 or $50,000. That's a lot for a family if the breadwinner died, right. Or if you could come in our business and make a little part-time income. We've had people make $8 and $10 million a year in our business now. How can I live with myself knowing that we didn't handle it right with that prospect and caused him to jump to a wrong conclusion, which just wiped him out of a future he'll probably get nowhere else, and I didn't get the future. What is?
Yeah, exactly.
It's too much value to not master what we're talking about.
And I want to speak to that because a lot of people may be jumping to the conclusion of why wouldn't you answer the truth? Why wouldn't you answer about what things are? Trust me, Hubert understands human nature. There is a lot of science behind what we're covering here today, and it's really saving that person from themselves.
Hey, Mauricio, right? one last really point about this. And this is not just for new people. This is especially true for veterans who've been around a long time. Just because you could answer every question, there's not a question that the person asks that you couldn't answer.
Right.
The fact that you try to answer it on that approach of initial contact is wrong. So the most experienced person screws up recruiting because they confuse the presentation with the approach. The approach is to set up the presentation, the meeting. You're making an invitation to a meeting. You're not trying to give the meeting on the phone. You're trying to just So most people.
Yeah, it
most
makes all the
people
sense. I
fail.
think people can relate. Like when you're setting up an appointment to a client, it's a whole different conversation. Once they're in the office, once you have their undivided attention, then it's the right environment, is the right place to get into the information. It's not on that first initial approach contact. Makes all the sense in the world.
And if you've had the right words, if you've had the 2 or 3 or 4 right words come out of your mouth in the beginning that hit their curiosity and greed button, and then they realize that whoever's on the other end of the line, they're not going to tell me anymore unless if I want to hear more, I must take the next step and take a look at it. If I don't get to hear it. And if you're strong enough to pull away from them, 99 times out of 100, that person will yield. And eventually, maybe not the first day, it might be a week or 2, but they will remember that they didn't get satisfied, and they know you're on to something and you wouldn't answer it. So they'll end up having to come back to hear the rest of the story. So
and I
I
can give testimony to the numbers. Like every time I've separated both things like they should be, it's like you give that presentation when you're actually going to do that part of the presentation, its own little special event. It's more effective. You end up recruiting more. You end up selling more, because you generated that curiosity, the importance of that event for them to be focused on it. I've tried to also doing it the other way, the approach, contact, and presenting at the same time. It was just not as productive. So great point today. Hope that
a lot of people think in this day and age of technology that we just sort of just do it all at one time, and I see a lot of people convoluting that whole thing. And I promise you, I don't care if it was 50 years ago or 100 years in the future, what we just said is going to work with human nature. And we just need to understand that. And if you've got first of all, if you hadn't got a good valuable message, why are you even marketing it? Why are you in that business? But when you're contacting somebody out there, it's everything's at stake. So you don't want to do it wrong. You don't. People, a lot of times, a new guy will go out there and say all this stuff because he doesn't understand the consequences, because he doesn't understand human nature. He doesn't understand that it's going to cost them their future. Yeah. So you need to explain to a new person up front why they need to take this approach when they're trying to contact people. Then they'll say, "Oh, I see." It's like explaining to a little child, "Don't touch this. It's hot." "Oh, it'll burn you." "Oh, now I understand why you don't want me to touch that." It's almost that simple.
Well, we don't know what we don't know, and sometimes when we enter the world of sales, some companies do a very bad job in teaching us human nature. They teach us the brochure, and this is the product. This is the features, and this is the cost, Never about human nature, never about these things that we're covering in this podcast. But I also want to, before we wrap it up, I want to rescue things you said. Do you have something that is really worth marketing? Do you have a great method? Do you have good news to share to the people that you want to change their life? So if you don't, let me tell you, there's something happening right now in America where people want to take control of their finances. Now they want to, be the ones that manage their money. They want to be kind of like self-managed. They want to learn how money works. And another thing that they want to do is they want to increase their income. They have, inflation is here. It costs, more to have a good lifestyle. And it's going to continue to increase. The price of just everything is skyrocketing, right? And income is pretty much stagnant. So people today want 2 things. One is learn how money works. And the second thing is they want to learn how to make more money delivering something of significant value. And so if you want to know what that is, in other words, having something that is worth marketing to the masses, that had great acceptance, something that people are looking for right now, that is the HCI opportunity. That is why on every single podcast, I invite you to check out HCIopportunity.com. Listen to the 15-minute presentation. Hubert makes the case as to why it is the best opportunity in America today. And so I suggest that you go there today. Don't waste any more time. Go there now. Check it out and register for that one interview so that you can check out how this opportunity can actually change your life. So HCIopportunity.com. With that being said, don't forget to share, like, subscribe, and comment about the things you're learning in this podcast. With that being said, we'll see you tomorrow. Hubert, have a great day, sir.
All right, see you later.
Warning, this podcast may change the way you think about business, entrepreneurship, and money forever. The Conquistador Podcast was created for dreamers, entrepreneurs, and leaders who want to conquer their future. To be an epic entrepreneur, you must adopt the right mental paradigms as well as master the art of selling, marketing, and finance.